You know, a good reminder from Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 is God always pierces the darkness, always. And the darkness doesn't last.
And the high priest, the great high priest who is Jesus Christ, he puts his hands on your life and you take your hands off and you say, my life is surrendered for your purposes.
Hey, Downline, Jamie Trussell here. Today, we are going to talk to Justin Earley, talk about habits of the household, intentional rhythms that actually wind up changing our hearts and our reactions to things as it relates to parenting. We're going to talk about a few other things. He's written several books. I think you'll really enjoy the conversation, and just shout out to angry bedtime parents. We can start a recovery group together, but we do talk about that and maybe some ways to help specifically as we start to shape those little disciples in our own homes. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hey, I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of the Downline podcast. My name is Jamie Trussell. I have the privilege of serving as the lead pastor of Redeemer in Dripping Springs, Texas, to keep serving this wonderful ministry where we hope that this podcast helps you walk with Jesus while pouring your life into others. We are joined today by Justin Earley, who we're going to talk some parenting and some habits of the household. Justin, thanks for jumping on.
You're welcome, Jamie. It's good to meet you.
For those that may not be, I think we'll probably have several people in our audience familiar with you from your recent parenting conference at Harvest Church in Memphis. But maybe for those that aren't as familiar, can you give them a little bit of a flyover of who you are, where you're at, and what you're up to?
Yeah, quick flyover is I was a missionary to China, now turned corporate lawyer. I run a business law practice, meaning I negotiate and write contracts to help people buy and sell businesses. Corporate law practice here in Richmond, Virginia. I've got 4 boys between 13 and 7 right now.
Okay.
Married to my wife, Lauren. And so lots of parenting boys in my life right now. Lots of legal work in my life right now. And I write books about habits and spirituality. I would say on the side, but it's kind of become a true second occupation, which is a lovely problem to have. Sometimes a problem, but a really great one. So I love writing about spirituality and habit in my ordinary life of lawyering, parenting, and all that.
Well, I'm really excited about our conversation, and let's hope that the 4 boys don't actually wind up needing your legal services at some point.
Yes, so far not. We'll cross our fingers on that. But, you know, I wrote Habits of the Household when they were all in the little boy stage, like, 0, 2, 4, and 6. They're now 7, 8, 11, and 13. And people keep telling me, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. So they haven't become big problems yet. We'll see.
So I've got 4. I've got 1 little girl mixed in to our 3 boys. And I mean, we just had a bunch of birthdays. We're like 11, 10, 7, 6 right now, I think.
Yeah.
Similar. I haven't quite crossed into that teenage. I haven't crossed that teenage Rubicon yet. I don't know if you've hit any new challenges with that or if you're kind of smooth sailing.
Not yet. My oldest is still in a really good bridge stage to adolescence. I mean, so he's old, he's taller than me now. He's over 6 foot, which is wild.
Yeah.
And he's definitely full on gone through puberty, but he's still a great 8th grade spirit emotionally. My most recent book is called The Body Teaches the Soul. And I write a lot about habits and in the embodiment of spiritual disciplines and how important it is to your health and holiness.
Okay.
So some people will know that I'm a part gym owner and pretty avid into thinking about the spirituality of health. And Whit, my oldest, now comes and works out with me. So last night we were doing squats together at our gym. And so we're enjoying a new phase of life together, but we haven't hit the problems of puberty yet.
He's not squatting more than you though yet, right? He might be taller, but not squatting more.
I'm happy to say he is nowhere close to me yet. I still have a lot to hold over his head. Actually, this is funny. Jamie, in the gym last night, somebody came up to us and be like, man, he is 2 or 3 inches taller than you. But they were like, but yeah, it's going to be a while before he squats more than you. I'm holding on to that part.
There you go. So we were talking before we came on, you're Richmond, Virginia, kind of graduated high school there. And you said you've been, I guess, back there maybe a decade or so.
Yeah. My quick geography was I grew up in the beach area of Virginia. My dad was in politics. And when he ran for Attorney General of Virginia, we moved the family. This was right as I started high school, to Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
So I started high school as like the son of the politician who everybody knew about. I didn't know anybody. That was fun. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
meant I made all these new friends in high school in Richmond. And it became like our home base, even though from there I moved to University of Virginia, where I went to school for 4 years. Then I was in China for almost 5 years doing missionary work, and then moved back and went to law school in DC. And only after finishing law school did we move back to Richmond. But we've been back here in Richmond with our family, raising our family here alongside my brothers and sisters and close friends for over a decade now. So
Okay.
we're really, really rooted here in Richmond. I plan on being buried here.
Yeah.
Lord would have to change something
Okay.
to get my coffin out of Richmond.
So UVA grad, missionary to China, lawyer, gym owner, author. Is there anything else that can make me feel worse about my lack of accomplishments before we get going?
No, I guess it should be a poor reflection on me, not you. I struggle with the habit of trying to do too much, but it also sounds more complicated than it is. I mean, to me, it's like all integrated into one life that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But I realize it's an unorthodox life, and listing it off to other people does sound odd.
Oh, it sounds, man. It's fantastic. Okay. So you're a young dad, you've got these 4 little kids, 0 to whatever, call it 4. And what's happening in you that makes you go, I'm going to write a book about habits of a household?
Well, I had gotten my start into writing a couple years before that, working on and publishing a book called The Common Rule, which was 4 daily and 4 weekly habits for spiritual formation in ordinary life.
Okay.
And I wrote that because as a young lawyer, which really I still am. I mean, I've been in the law for about 10 years. In law practice, that still makes you pretty young. But
Okay.
as a really young lawyer, like in my first year of lawyering, I suffered a really bad mental health collapse because of all my bad habits of technology and running my body really hard, not sleeping right, not eating right, not working out, not to mention working around the clock, having 2 young kids, not having any boundaries, and being on my phone all the time.
Okay.
And what was so odd about that stage, Jamie, was I was then and still am a devoted follower of Jesus. Like my worldview was really good. I was really well educated. I believed all the right things, but I had no idea how much a really unhealthy program of habits, which I had unconsciously, I just adopted the typical lawyering program of habits, how much those bad habits would malform your heart, and that your head could go one way, but when your habits go the other way, your heart tends to follow the habits.
Okay.
So I had started writing about the spirituality of habit and really thinking about that. And a couple years in, I even published my first book on habits. And I had this night where I was yelling my kids to bed like I usually did. And I remember shutting the door and being like, I'm a lawyer who has all his tech and work habits together, and I still have this other habit of yelling my kids to bed every night. It was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that was the night that sparked a conversation with a pastor who suggested I try this bedtime liturgy with my kids, which led to these evenings in our house where I was working on this kind of habit of going back and forth with them at bedtime, asking, if they could see my eyes, and they'd say yes. And I'd say, can you see that I see your eyes? And they'd say yes. And then I'd say, I love you no matter what bad things you do. They'd say yes. I love you no matter what good things you do. They'd say yes. And then I'd say, who else loves you like that? And they'd say, God does. And I started into this habit on advice of a pastor, and kind of like unconsciously applying everything I had already written about to the space of parenting. And what was super neat about this time was that it remained as chaotic as you think putting 4 boys to bed is. Like none of their behavior dramatically improved. Like none of the house got cleaner.
Yeah.
But I really started to change in my reaction to their chaos. And so I had a breakthrough moment where I realized that one of the powers of a healthy habit in the household was that it changes your knee-jerk reaction to the ordinary chaos, and opens up these new ways of God loving you, you loving them, that all of us experiencing the love of God in each other in a different way. And that was my spark moment where I started to realize that habits in the household were as spiritually formative as anything else that happens. And I had focused more on like what I teach my kids or what I talk to my kids about, which is still of the utmost importance. I've just now brought what does the ordinary feel like to that same level of importance, and said, what are the habits that we can have in our daily routine that help form us in the love of God and neighbor? And that was the beginning of Habits of the Household, which, now is a couple years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So tell me, as a dad of 4 that does get angry almost on a nightly basis, putting
Yeah.
4 kids to bed. Uh, and honestly, because I've got an idolatry of some sense of time to myself or time with Shanna and me where I'm, off duty at some point, right? It's like this bullseye of a target. I just want to hit dadgummit and get
Yeah.
30 minutes
Yeah.
to myself. But what have you learned? I mean, give me some things to hold on to as far as what do those liturgies look like? What other than just bedtime have you learned and can help us with?
I've found that a lot of my parenting problems happen in the realm of habit because I typically know better. And probably you do too, Jamie. It's like you don't want to yell your kids to bed.
Mm,
You don't want to, over prioritize. You use the word idolize, which I agree with. Whenever we take something that is good, but make it ultimate,
hmm
we're playing in the realm of idol worship. So, wanting some time to yourself at the end of the day is perfectly fine, even good, probably healthy for you. But holding it so high that when it breaks up and you're losing it, so you yell at your kids is the problem. But no one wants to do that. I've never met anybody who's like, that's how I want the evening to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Most of our problems there are happening in the realm of instinct. And so one of my key insights for people is don't try to think your way out of a problem that you didn't think your way into. If
Okay.
you've practiced your way there, you need to practice your way out, right?
Okay. Okay.
So if you're thinking about bedtimes issues, I would strongly recommend a couple bedtime liturgies on hand. And by that, I mean like little back and forth prayers or rhythms,
Mhm.
even games you could play. Like, my kids, they're young boys. They don't want to go to bed, like, but if
Yeah.
I can, instead of being like, go, it's time now, walk up the stairs, I'll do it almost every night. I'll be like, you got 5 seconds and I'm chasing you down, and they know if I catch them, I'm going to grab them and tickle them. And so instead of yelling, like, go up to bed, I'm like, let's play a game. You got 5 seconds. I'm going to chase you down. And then instead of being like, get in bed, stay in bed, which, we still struggle with. Don't get me wrong here. This is not all perfect. We do these bedtime liturgy prayers, which means, it's less like get in bed or else, and more like, hey, you need to be in bed because we're about to do our prayer. And they're ways, again, of softening my reaction
Mm.
more than controlling
Controlling their
their
response. Yeah. Yeah.
response and behavior. But they're kids. They're becoming like you. They're cueing off you. And so to the
Mhm.
extent you're using healthy habits to regulate, control, and honestly, like allowing the Lord to sanctify your ordinary in the household. Like
Mhm.
he's using parenting to make you more patient. This is a huge deal, right? He's using the chaos of children as friction and a challenge in your life to make you a more patient and loving person. And a lot of us kind of miss this. We're like, I want to control my kids to a place where I can go enjoy the rest of my evening, which is understandable. But God has a much bigger goal for you than a simple enjoyment of this evening. He wants to make you more like Jesus Christ, who is kind, who is patient, who is gentle and lowly at heart, whose yoke is easy, whose burden is light, who loves people into a new way of life. And he's trying to get that to happen in your life through children. So, which is why I often like the household is the monastery. This is the
Mm.
place where you become more like Jesus through practicing it. And in little practices like that, let's say bedtime liturgies, you get lots of chances to practice being more patient. I'll give you one more example, and I can give a ton more examples, but pause prayers are a huge thing that have been so helpful for me as a practice before moments of discipline. So this is not just bedtime, this is everywhere. When I hear my kids fighting or they're getting in trouble, bringing a habit of prayer into an ordinary moment of discipline
Okay.
has, one, it brings in all the spiritual power of prayer that you would think it brings in. I mean, talking to the God who made you and loves you as you try to help these children that you made and you love
Mm,
is very helpful to connect you to your Father, your Heavenly Father, as you are trying to be a good father. And so prayer is just, this could be my response to anything. Like, well,
mm,
pray about it. And I'm not being Hallmark card, like,
yeah.
just like sarcastic here. I'm like, no, you should be praying without
Mm,
ceasing through your day. And most of us don't think like, well, in a moment when our kids are fighting or I've got to discipline them, I don't have time to pray. And I'm like, oh, it's been so helpful for me. Like really quick prayers, just Lord
mm,
help on the way to a moment of discipline, or
yeah.
Lord help me be full of grace and truth in this moment. Why is that so helpful? Well, it's not only the prayer we just talked about, but it's also, again, Jamie, interrupting your habit cycles. You're taking a habit that you typically have of like, hey, stop that, like um, that instinctual reaction of frustration and rage that you have. And you're replacing it with a request for help to God, which changes the way that you're going into that interaction.
Yeah, sure.
So those are two examples of where I've seen a lot of the frustration in my life and anger happen. And I say, let's work on swapping out those habits that I have of frustration for habits of prayer and kindness toward my children. And that, has not made me a perfect father. It's not made our household perfect, but it's helped a lot.
Mm. Okay, so take me outside of bedtime though. I mean, I'm sure there are a multitude of habits that slowly over time you work in. Uh, I'm guessing the more you practice them, the more your conditioned response changes, right, in those
Mm-hmm.
moments, and it becomes, more spirit empowered, natural happening in your life. But what other than bedtime, like take me through a day. If you go, man, I've got these rhythms and these are super important in shaping me, shaping the environment of my home. It's changing my heart. Give me your top, 3, 4 that you're going, and these have been monumental.
Yeah. One top one is how I start my day before the kids come into it. Scripture before phone is what I call it.
Mm,
It sounds like a quiet time routine, and that's true. But in getting my phone out of my morning, I am able to turn and offer so much more patience, presence, and love to my children in that morning. Because there's been so
okay.
many times where a stressful email or, you know,
Mm,
some like angry tweet has blown up my mood and I take it out on them. And I don't think if you parents or grandparents listening, it's astonishing how much of our actions towards our children's are actions toward our children are actually reactions to something we saw on our phone that are coloring our interactions with our kids. And so one, starting the day on saying, I'm not going to start my day in the phone. That's actually not going to come until I leave the house and get to the office. My morning
okay.
time with my kids is going to be preserved for some time with the Lord and some time with them. That's number one. Number two, one thing that has become a rhythm for us that I hold really dear is a morning prayer beside the door before we leave.
Okay.
Um,
Like front
this
door of
is
your house, like you're
Yeah,
leaving the
front door of the
house?
house. So this is another, like, you're looking for a pain point, and here the pain point is like rushing out and running to school, and like no one can find their shoes, no one's doing what they're supposed to do, so everybody's stressed at this point. And I'm looking, Jamie, for points like that where we say, okay, here's where a lot of the day's frustration is. And to
Mm,
say, let's insert a habit there. And so what we have this thing called morning prayer at the door, where we gather and say this same short prayer every day. And we've done it for, gosh, 5+ years now. We all just say, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thank you for this day. Bless us as we work, study, and play. Be present with us in all we do. May we bring glory and honor to you. And, here's what this looks like. One, you don't get full participation from 4 young children. You're going to get partial participation. Like sometimes they're going to be looking off in the distance.
yeah.
Sometimes they're going to be grumpy about it. Sometimes it's Friday and they're going to be like, let's say the prayer really loud, but what it looks like in practice is I'm more saying, hey guys, it's time for morning prayer at the door. We're about to go. Which again changes the way I and we approach the moment, and is a theological marker that we're not just like, the point of life is not to hurry out the door and like get stuff done. The point of life is to be sent out by God to
Mm,
glorify him in play, in work, in all that we do. And little reminders there, like heavy theology in those words, but they rhyme. Kids can say them.
sure. Yeah.
And whichever, I've had a ton of families tell me they use this prayer at the door, which is just incredible. But I've had a ton of families tell me that, they do something else or they've invented their own. But there's an example, if you're looking for another pain point at the door on your way out to the car
Oh my
to get
gosh.
ready
Yeah.
for school, that you're saying, let's add something in here that helps lift our eyes up towards the God who is the God of this chaos, and not
Mm,
just like leaving our heads down, stuck in the anger and frustration of this chaos. So that's a second one that's been really sweet for us. A third one that is as obvious as it is important is a family mealtime sometime
mhm.
during the day. For most people, this is a family dinner. For some families, this might be a family breakfast, depending on your schedules. You might have
Mm,
a ton of sports, or you might have like jobs that work late. But I'm looking for one regular time in the day where we're all going to sit down and work on the art of conversation. That is
okay.
best done at the dinner table. And this is the, tried and true idea that families who eat together are doing so much more than eating. They are building community, and they're orienting life around community rather than around the busy schedule, because it's way easier to give people their own screen and their own microwave dinner and say, do whatever you want. And that's how we grow to what America mostly is. And that is isolated people that are sad, lonely, angry, depressed, and
Sure.
anxious. But when we say, oh, humans are made to eat together, like this is a fundamental fact of how God made us. Like that's why so many salvation metaphors are God eating with us, God sharing a
Mm,
meal with us. This is our
mm,
central ritual, right, in communion, that we're about relationship. One phenomenal way to practice this incredibly important spiritual truth is just to actually do it every day. Like, and I mean, more days than not. We aim to have family dinner 3 to 4 days a week. We obviously have days where work is happening for me, or a meeting or a hangout is happening for somebody else, or sports. But it's more normal than not to find us at the
okay.
dinner table talking.
Yeah.
Um, that is a huge one. And then the last one I would give you, Jamie, is thinking about habits of screen time.
Mhm.
Um, and actually, this would be a super long answer, so I'll just drop this as a teaser. You can ask more if you want, but my suggestion is to think about children as defaulting to off time, as in like no screens,
Mhm.
unless it's a carefully chosen on time for a good reason.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of on times, but most people, it's really easy right now to default to like, well, they can just do it whenever they want.
That's right.
And I'm saying that's the way to really, really harm your children. Screens can be great for lots of things sometimes, but you need to do it sometimes for really good reasons and default to off time most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in lockstep with you on that one. And I think that's actually something Shannon and I do pretty well. It's interesting though, because with all the research that's coming out, and even our school district out here in Dripping Springs, just this year has banned cell phones from
Good.
campuses, from high school all the way down, which is great. But I've start to wonder, even with all the research, I don't think it's changing parenting habits maybe as quickly as I would
Hmm.
have thought. I don't know if you're seeing that at all, or if you see a shift in that, or if you have any thoughts as to kind of why that is. There's a convenience factor with this shuts my kid up and I get a minute to breathe and, whatever. But the whether it's Heights research or anyone else's, it's pretty conclusive at this point, the detrimental effects.
Yeah. It's not hard. I'm seeing things shift in my local and immediate community, but I wouldn't confidently say what's happening everywhere, but I will say a couple things. 6, 7 years ago, when I first started writing and talking about habits and technology,
Mhm.
I felt like I was out on a limb, anecdotally talking about how I think this is healthy for your mental health. I think like, these habits are really important because technology is dangerous. And I've been so encouraged and alarmed to see all the statistics backing that up.
Oh, sure.
So we now know better so we can do better, right? And I'm seeing a lot of people changing their rhythms, or at least wanting to.
But so can
But
I interrupt you and ask you one quick follow-up?
yeah,
On you
yeah,
said in your immediate community, is this because back when we were living in Memphis, it it kind of had to be a subgroup of parents and families kind of almost making a covenant together, like we're
yes,
going in and we're going to hold the line. Is that when you say in your immediate community, is
yes,
that the kind
that's
of stuff
exactly
you're seeing? Okay.
that's exactly what I mean. And Lauren and I have created a free resource for this. You can go to hang10movement.com.
Hang 10, just spell out the word 10 or number.
Yep, spell out the word hang10movement.com, and you'll find it. Google it. Lauren and I have put together 10 practices for communities, households, and parents to know exactly what to do. Because I think people feel like they should do something different now, but they don't know what exactly to do. And so if you go to hang10movement.com, you'll see 3 practices for parents, 3 practices for your household, and then 4 practices for your community. So altogether, there's 10. And it's based on the key practice, hang 10, wait till 10th grade to give your children access to smartphones or social media. And
Okay.
when you do that, when you think, okay, I'm going to wait till 10th grade to give them a full-fledged smartphone, not let them on social media before that. You might even wait longer than that. What you're doing is you're introducing an intentionality to the younger years. And these practices, you can go look them up. They're all pretty simple. Some of the ones like scripture before phone, I've already talked about. It's a way to get you thinking about how to discipline your use of technology so that technology doesn't disciple you. Because if you don't control it, it's going to control you.
Yeah.
And there's lots of little practices in that will help you. Because I'm seeing that work really, really well when you do it in a tight-knit community. This could be the neighbors on your block, if they're like-minded. This could be the school you're going to, a group of parents in the PTA group. If you go to a Christian school, they're really going to like this. A youth group parents. This could be any subset. Like find 5 or 10 families that hang out with your family a lot. Invite them over for an evening. Like you can hang out, make it fun.
Yeah.
There's printouts on the hang10movement.com website. You can just hand them out and say, let's talk about these and whether we want to align on some of these for our kids. That is the magic right there. Lots of people wanted to do something different for their family, but unless communities are practicing new rhythms together with technology, it's a prisoner's dilemma because you have to move in a collective. Otherwise, you fall to the lowest common denominator. So we've tried to equip people with the Hang 10 movement stuff.
What's the biggest pushback, if you've encountered any, have people given you on some of this stuff? Or are most people like,
Jamie,
oh,
it's
this is wrong?
amazing. None.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nobody is and I'm always worried about this, but nobody is like, actually, that doesn't matter. Like said no one, like really. And I talk a lot about this. I mean, I talk to thousands upon thousands of people about this. Here's the one big question I get. It was, well, wait, what do you do if that ship has sailed? Like I already gave my kid a phone, or like we're already in the adolescent years. And honestly, this answer isn't hard. Like I'm so excited to tell you that we worship a God of grace who like takes mistakes we've made and creates beautiful new lives out of them. So there is no shame or judgment. Maybe you did it wrong and you knew you shouldn't have been. Maybe more likely you had no idea. Like technology caught you off guard like it caught everybody else off guard. There is so much grace for you, and there is never a point in time where it's too late to start working on the right thing. And you know this, right? If you follow Jesus, you know this, but sometimes you just need to be reminded. So if your kid is already on social media, already on, a smartphone, what you want to do is exactly what you think you should do. Get involved, like start having more conversations. Say, hey, I'm learning about this. We should talk about this. Go walk through it with them. I just this year released a version of my first book, The Common Rule for Teens. Okay. And if parents are like, oh, this ship has kind of already sailed, give them the Common Rule teen version and read it with them. Like you can read the adult version, the Common Rule.
Tell me. Okay, give me 60 seconds on what is the Common Rule.
Okay, the Common Rule is my first book, 4 daily habits and 4 weekly habits for spiritual formation. So it's going to give you 4 habits. Some of them are like turn your phone off for an hour each day, do scripture before phone, eat one communal meal each day. These are sounding familiar, right? But
Yep.
in our like conversation. And then it's going to give you 4 weekly habits. Take a Sabbath, have a hang out with a friend once a week to actually be in sharing rhythms. The teen version is going to suggest that they move their bodies and exercise once a week. Because I would love to tell you all about this newest book, The Body Teaches the Soul, and why I believe that, and not like getting in shape or becoming the most fit you can be. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting your body involved in your spiritual formation, like understanding that God made your body, loves your body, is going to redeem you to a new body, saved you by the death of his son's body. Like he is all about embodiment, right? This is not a side project for him. And so you need to get your body involved. So in the teen version of the Common Rule, I talk about exercise as a spiritual discipline, but they're going to read about the idea that a lot of their spirituality, a lot of their relationship to God is happening in these ordinary habits of technology, of eating, of embodiment. And it helps bring the Christian paradigm to a practical level that they can see, smell, taste, and touch and be like, oh, this is what it looks like to live as a disciple of Jesus right now. Like there are some things that will help you follow him. And it's also, I'm a big thinker. I'm a lawyer. I'm a writer. Like there's rich, important theology in there. I would never sacrifice theology to practice. My whole thing is I don't divorce them, right? I don't want to be like, just do this. Right? Doesn't matter what you believe. Like that's legalism and heretical. But neither am I going to say, just think this. It doesn't matter what you do. Half of Paul's letters are about that. It's like, hey, if you believe this, change your life.
See the entire book of James.
Yeah, there you go. Really the second half of any epistle too is like, in view of God's mercies, now offer your bodies as living sacrifices. So the Common Rule teen version is going to be ideas for that at a teen level. The Common Rule regular version is going to be ideas for that at a U level. So if you're specifically wrestling with how do I talk to my kids about technology, you should read that with them.
Yeah, that'd be a great way to start the conversation. And you're in
Yes, exactly.
But what I heard you saying is you're offering a second podcast episode at some point to tell me why I need to get in better shape. And I'm pretty sure my wife put you up to that.
That is also true. I want you to go get a copy of The Body Teaches the Soul, and you got to read the introduction so that you understand the key theological paradigm here of why your body is far more spiritual than you thought. And then, Jamie, you can skip right to the exercise chapter in chapter 6, and it'll tell you all about how exercise is a way of practicing being like Jesus. That's just going to be the teaser. I'm going to leave it like that.
That's the teaser. Great. So yes, I'm trending away from Christ likeness at the moment. Yes, in more areas than just that. All right, not only
That's
that.
Fair.
Okay, hey, we'll wind it down, tie a bow on it, but tell our folks if they want to find you, find your stuff, connect with you beyond this. How can they do that?
Yeah, I would love to have you guys follow along. 2 great ways to do that. Go to my website and join my email list. I send out about weekly emails of just like thoughts, new things that I'm doing. I just sent out a free Advent devotional resource for people for the season of Advent. Lots of stuff like that you can find on my email list. That's justinwhitmellearly.com.
Okay.
And you can also follow along on Instagram. I post a ton of short videos on little habit ideas, parenting ideas, spirituality of embodiment thoughts. I'm cautious of social media. I don't encourage anybody to spend a lot of time there. If you happen to be there, I'm going to be a better use of your screen time than a lot. So I can confidently say that. Short videos on the spirituality of habit.
Yeah. That's great. Body Teaches the Soul. You got Habits of the Household, and then the
Common Rule.
Common Rule. I was going to say Ordinary Rule, but yes, the Common Rule.
And there's also Made for People. So I've been busy. You can think of it as the Common Rule is like spiritual disciplines. It's the household of family disciplines. Made for People is friendship and communal disciplines. Okay. And then this most recent one, The Body Teaches the Soul, as thinking through all of this through the lens of the body. If anybody's like, what's the theory here? Where to start? I would actually start right there. The Body Teaches the Soul. That's my most recent sort of comprehensive book on thinking through all this. But if you want parenting, you jump right into Habits of the Household.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Justin, ton of fun. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate your time.
It's been great, Jamie. Thank you.
We thank you for listening to this episode of the Downline podcast. Please subscribe, Give us 5 stars. Help us to get this content out to as many people as possible as we continue to partner with men and women in the Great Commission as we seek to make disciples as a lifestyle for a lifetime.